All right, so the next thing we're going to dive into is the rents. Is Kampot affordable, Andrew? Is it
Oh,
affordable? And tell us, I mean, like it looks like you got a fairly big place. I watched you walk through a couple hallways and end up in this back room. So it looks like you got a pretty good sized place. What can you get a rental for there in Kampot?
if you want to live at a resort with a swimming pool, you can do it for 200 more or less here in Kampot. I live in a one bedroom, lounge room, kitchen, bathroom house in the centre of town down a quiet lane between the river and the Durian roundabout, for those who know Kampot, right in the heart of town. $80 a month for my rent.
All right, so today we are heading over to one of my favorite countries. I love this place, Cambodia, with my friend Andrew Maher. Andrew, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Well, thanks for
Happy to
taking
be here.
thanks for taking part in the podcast. I appreciate it. So, Andrew, just talking to you a little bit, we were talking off air before we started. You have such a fascinating life, and you're living in a very unique way. And so I can't wait to dive into this a little bit more. But you've been over there for like 25 years. You're from Australia. So let's start with your backstory. I mean, where are you originally from in Australia, and how did you find your way over to you're living in Kampot, Cambodia. And explain a little bit about Kampot. So let's start from there.
Cool. I grew up in a small town called Colac in Western Victoria, Australia. I lived there until I was 18, and then I moved to Melbourne and I worked for a few banks, and then I ended up in the public service, and I was married to my high school sweetheart. We had bought a home together, and I had everything I thought I wanted, but inside I was bored at one level, and we divorced, and I was feeling a bit lost and a bit like a failure, and I didn't know what to do, and I jumped on a plane and I headed off to Thailand. And I met up with some Italian girls and we started traveling Thailand together. We were in the north of Thailand. I'd had enough and they wanted to stay. So I went down south and went to Koh Phangan back in the day, and it was a little bit different than it is now. It was a bit more raw. After a few weeks there, I'd had enough, and I got an email from them inviting me to meet them in Siem Reap, Angkor Wat, Cambodia. And I thought, why not? I didn't really know much about Cambodia, but I was ready for a new country. And as soon as I landed, there was something in the air that it really it grabbed me and appealed to me. It was very authentic feeling here, and the smiles were there immediately, and just the feeling of a new country that was raw and real.
Hmm.
Thailand's a wonderful place, but they have mass tourism, and it's hard to get off the beaten track. It's a
Hmm.
little bit like McDonald's in a mum and pop shack, especially back then.
Yeah.
I stayed in Siem Reap for a few weeks, and once I'd had enough of that, I moved on to Phnom Penh. Had a great time there. Phnom Penh, if you owned a car back then, you were considered a rich person, so traffic wasn't an issue. And it was a great wild adventure. I met a lady. I went back to Australia, sorted out my affairs, came back, and then we moved to the coast, a place called Sihanoukville. And I lived there for a year trying to figure out what to do to stay. And I was seeing people come and go with the dream, and they'd usually open a bar, restaurant, or guest house and fail within a year.
Yeah.
Eventually, I was sitting there on the beach one day reading my book, and I noticed the other tourists on the beach were also reading. So I went back to Australia again, and I had contacts at that stage, and I got a crate load of secondhand books, imported them to Cambodia, and never looked back. Ended up with number two recommendation in Lonely Planet. I had 36 languages, close to 20,000 books on three levels in my bookshop, and it was a wonderful place until it became New Macau. And when that happened, I moved to here in Kampot,
So when you said until it became what?
New Macau. There's something like 200 casinos in Sandhookville now.
Okay. So that
It's like
impact.
80 kilometers of beaches, and I thought this will never be fully developed in my lifetime, but literally bang, bang, bang. And prices became unaffordable during the boom. It's changed now,
I see. Okay.
but there's a lot of half-finished skyscrapers. And China requested the Cambodian government to ban online gaming
Uh-huh.
for China. So overnight, that business model collapsed because it was all online gambling, very few in-person customers at the casinos. Several hundred thousand Chinese left within the next few weeks. It's since recovered a bit, and now it's mainly Indonesians and Filipinos living there, operating online gambling facilities for Indonesia and the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also become a scam center, and you'll find various documentaries on YouTube about what goes on in those places. But if you've ever received the crypto romance scheme type emails, there's a good chance they're originating from Sandhookville.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. So basically, you're saying when the casinos moved in, it increased the rents and it put your books shop out of business.
Well, not only that, we'd go days without water and electricity because of it went from 50,000 people they were trying to build for 2 million. The
Okay.
roads would become non-existent because of the heavy equipment. No tourists wanted to spend a day there because they bulldozed everything on the beach while they were building. There used to be Cambodian family-run shacks providing food and drinks on the beaches, and they all got pushed out.
Mm-hmm.
There was just nowhere to live and nothing to do anymore. No electricity, no water,
Wow.
unreliable internet.
How
I
long did,
tried to wait it out as long as I could, but
yeah, how long did you run that business?
15 years.
What a fun concept. And you were
That was
bringing and
great.
you were importing the books from Australia?
I just did the one-time import, and after that, I got by on hotel staff learned that if someone left a book in their room, that they could bring it into me and I'd buy it off them.
Mm-hmm.
I traded with customers, like if they took 3 books and gave me 3 books, they'd get a discount on their purchase.
Mm-hmm.
And I also sold photocopy books because that's what people wanted as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's it's such an interesting business too, because you got to know what books sell in your area. You got to be very clever in your selection, right? Because if you select the wrong stuff, you're not going to make money.
Yeah, and people who read are passionate about it. It's not for everyone,
Right.
but nearly every day I'd have people seek me out because I had gardens set up on the roof and out the front, and people would seek me out and say, "Is this your shop? I just want to thank you for what you do."
Hmm.
I was making good money, but more than that, it was just a wonderfully reward, and it never felt like work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my favourite part was the end of the day when I'd close up, I'd go through the books that had come in that day that had been traded in and pick out the ones that I wanted to read. But unfortunately, my to read pile got so big that I never ever got to the bottom of it.
Yeah. Thinking about moving abroad but not sure where to start? You're not alone. There are dozens of countries that seem amazing on the surface, but how do you know which ones are actually right for you? The wrong move could be stressful and expensive. That's why at adventurefreaks.com we created the Ideal Destination Finder. It's a fun, unique tool that helps match you with your top 3 destinations based on your lifestyle, budget, and priorities. All you need to do is go to the adventurefreaks.com website, scroll down a bit, and you'll see the Ideal Destination Finder. Click it and start the quiz. It takes about 3 minutes and it could save you months of research. So give it a try and stop guessing. Now let's get back to the video. Yeah, so now you're in Kampot. How did you end up there?
Well, there were a few options after Sandhookville. I went around various other cities, Ko Kong on the Thai border, but that's a very small expat community, and tourists at most will spend one night there. So if you're looking to have a business, it's pretty tough to make a go of relying on one night visitors. Battambang is a little bit the same. That's the second biggest city in Cambodia. It's south of Siem Reap. It's a lovely place if you're going to retire, but to have a business there, you'd be struggling in the off season.
Hmm.
Phnom Penh's not for me. It's if you like a big city with the hustle and bustle, it's a great place, but I like somewhere quiet. And Kampot was really the only option, apart from perhaps moving out to one of the islands. But then again, I think I'd get island fever if I stayed on an island too long.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, great. Well, thanks for that, Andrew. Let's move on. Everybody that's watching that's interested in Cambodia, potentially living there or even retiring there, what do they need to do to become a resident? What do they need to do to obtain a visa to stay there?
If you're over 55 or turning 55 in the calendar year, it's very, very easy. For about $300 with no additional supporting paperwork, you can get a retirement visa at 55, no questions asked, and renew it annually. That's the easiest option. If you're under 55, you'll need to get a business visa, and you can't convert a tourist visa to a business visa. So if you're considering that option, get that on arrival when you pre-apply online, and then you can extend it indefinitely. If you do arrive on a tourist visa, I think that can be extended maybe 1 month, but I'm not sure. I'll check on that if anyone wants to know.
Okay.
But it's very easy to just cross over the border, spend a day or even an hour in Vietnam or Thailand if you're over in the west of the country, cross back over and just make sure you get I think it's called an ordinary visa, technically the business visa.
Okay. Okay.
And
Now,
that can be extended indefinitely, but you will need to have a work permit regardless of whether you're working or not.
okay.
And that's, I believe, about $150 a year.
Okay. Do you know that are they required to make a certain amount per month with that
No,
visa?
no, on any of those visas, there's no minimum income requirement at the
Okay.
moment. I've always expected this to change, but in 25 years, give Cambodia its credit, it welcomes people the assumption is basically if you've got enough to be here, you're contributing to the economy.
Okay. Okay. Well, explain Kampot. I'm going to put some imagery up for people to get an idea what it looks like, but explain what is it like to live in Kampot? What does the city look like? What does it feel like?
Kampot's got a history that goes back a long time. It was one of the first places that the Indian influence arrived in Cambodia. There are salt pans here, so it was always a trading salt area. And
Hmm.
then when the Indians arrived, not only did they bring religion, Hinduism originally, and architecture, and how to create a kingdom, and the script, the Cambodian script is derived from Sanskrit Pali, Indian influence again. The Indians found it was okay to grow pepper here. So we've got cave temples that date from about 600 AD that are Shiva Hindu temples here.
Hmm.
Then the next big step in Kampot was when the French arrived. They built a lovely, and I live in the colonial quarter. There's the quaint French colonial buildings here and the Chinese shop front type buildings.
Hmm.
Some of the bridges over the river still date from the French era. The
Hmm.
French built a train that runs through here, which I'd highly recommend if anyone's going to visit Kampot. Give the train a go. It's cheaper, air conditioned, not packed out, and it takes a different route than the road.
Hmm.
Um, Kampot is about 50,000 people. And when I first came here on a holiday 25 years ago, I was traveling with a friend from Sihanoukville. There was nothing. There were a couple of guest houses, and we went out after dinner, and there was nothing to do. And when I lived in Sihanoukville, I used to take holidays in Kep, which is about half an hour down the road, and it's Cambodia's elite seaside weekend getaway for the rich from Phnom Penh. I used to stop here and have lunch, and slowly you'd see it grow, but there was still not much here in the way of things to do for expats. What really changed it here was when Sihanoukville went to New Macau, a large proportion of the expats from there moved here, and so they opened businesses and also created demand for businesses, a self-fulfilling circle. So
Hmm.
now you've got, we were talking before, we've got 6 or 7 South Asian restaurants in town: Thai, Chinese, Vietnamese, French, Mexican,
Wow.
German,
Nice.
several Italian places, maybe 4 or 5
Hmm.
American restaurants. There used to be a Canadian restaurant, but they closed a few years back. But Australian restaurant, English cuisine, you name it, it's here.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Turkey, Greek. We've got people from all over the world. And of all age groups too. There are a lot of young people here doing their thing. It's not just retirees.
Yeah.
So as a result, there's a broad range of activities which we can go into later. If you want to, you can fill your time in here
Yeah.
doing productive and interesting things.
Sure. Yeah, and there's a lot of digital nomads finding places like that to live because they're so affordable and they can live very well on the salaries that they make online. What is the climate like there?
It's we have 2 seasons. We have the dry season, and now it's what they're starting to call the green season. Used to be known as the wet season, but the wet is not too bad. It might rain for an hour or two a day, and you're best to avoid it if you can. But you're not going to get sick and die if you get a little bit wet. And one thing I would recommend to anyone, especially if you're going to have a business, have a look at the location in the wet season just to make sure your roads are properly trained.
Hmm.
The weather here is, I come from southern Australia and we get extremes of cold and hot. Here it's pretty constant. Dry season is hotter, but it never, I think the highest I've ever seen it here would be 34 degrees Celsius, which is not unbearable.
Yeah. Is it humid there? Is it always humid?
Not always. It's probably more humid than what most people are used to. But
Okay.
after so long, I don't even notice the humidity anymore. And I do have aircon where I sleep.
Yeah.
Not, I've got plenty of friends who could afford aircon but choose not to. It depends on your personal preference for
Yeah.
that.
Now, with the humidity over there, and the heat, I mean, that's usually a rise in like mosquitoes and insects. Do you see a lot of that there?
Yes, at home I always have a fan on me, and a fan is enough to keep the mosquitoes away. If going out, I will try to take a spray or one of the roll-on mosquito deterrents.
Hmm.
You don't want to wear too perfume will like an aftershave will attract them, as will bright clothes.
Okay.
Malaria is not a thing up in the highlands. It is, but exceedingly few expats live up in the highlands. On the islands, they get the occasional outburst of dengue fever. I've never had that, and thank goodness, and I hope I never do. But yeah, those are things to consider. We have many laboratories here, so if you are unwell, there's plenty of options to get it checked out, and the laboratory costs here are a lot cheaper than what you'd find in, say, the US.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to touch on that in a little bit. And you're saying the laboratories are basically the healthcare system there.
Well, you've got to have a diagnosis before you can get treated. Most Khmers will go to a doctor or a pharmacist and they'll guess. And usually they'll give you Panadol and an IV, no matter what. But if you're a Westerner with access to the internet, it's best to do a bit of research yourself, go along to a lab, get a test, get a result, and then figure out how you're going to be treated. The pharmacists here, there are some really good ones who are properly trained. And once you've got a diagnosis, they'll prescribe to you the medicine, and the prices, especially the pharmacists that I've built up trust with, amazing prices.
So you're
I
referring,
avoid the whole doctor thing because that's just adding a cost onto it that I don't really need here. You don't need a prescription for most things here.
I guess that question is that you're referring to a laboratory as a pharmacy.
The laboratory, some pharmacists have a laboratory, but not the one that I go to. If I need a lab test, I'll go to a separate. There are several in town
I
where
see.
all they do is lab tests.
Is
But
testing.
if you do go to a doctor, make sure you got one who's attached to a laboratory. Otherwise, you're just going to be guessing what you got wrong.
Okay. All right. That's great information. All right. Well,
There
let's
is a
dive.
very good outside town called Sonia Kills. You'll pay for it, but they are world class treatment.
Okay. Yeah, good information. All right. So the next thing we're going to dive into is the rents. Is Kampot affordable, Andrew? Is it
Oh,
affordable? And tell us, I mean, like it looks like you got a fairly big place. I watched you walk through a couple hallways and end up in this back room. So it looks like you got a pretty good sized place. What can you get a rental for there in Kampot?
if you want to live at a resort with a swimming pool, you can do it for 200 more or less here in Kampot. I live in a one bedroom, lounge room, kitchen, bathroom house in the centre of town down a quiet lane between the river and the Durian roundabout, for those who know Kampot, right in the heart of town. $80 a month for my rent. You can pay what you want, but the prices here are very affordable.
Okay,
A
so
lot of people
let's
go for the old
eh,
traditional houses in the countryside that are built on stilts, and you'll pay about $200 a month for one of those. And that's a
wow.
whole different lifestyle living out in the rice fields, on stilts, beautiful old wood houses. If you want the genuine experience of Cambodia, that's worth
So in
considering as
so
well.
in Kampot, you can find you're saying like a resort style nice apartment. You're gonna
A
pay two.
bungalow. You get a bungalow at a resort with a swimming pool for Bohemians are offering $50 a week, 200 a month at the moment. I've seen them go for as little as 160, and you can pay up to about 350. There are places where you could pay more, and you can get a private villa here with a swimming pool and say 4 or 5 bedrooms for $400 or $500.
Wow. That's impressive. Just think if you're like a young digital nomad and you have like you're traveling with four of you. I mean, you could rent one of those places, a beautiful, immaculate place for nothing. You're living basically for nothing. But I mean, how big is your place for $80 a month? You're living in the colonial area of Kampot, which is the very pretty area. Um, I mean, that's astonishingly low.
Yeah, yeah. My bedroom, if my place was any bigger, would annoy me because I'm not one who likes to spend a lot of time cleaning. So it's perfect for me. And I like the fact that I smoke cigarettes and I smoke while I work in my lounge room, but I can come into my bedroom, which is a separate room, and escape that, all for just $80. And I've got a lovely little kitchen and bathroom out the back.
Uh-huh.
And in a lane where everyone else is Cambodian, and I'm part of the community. And I drive some kids to school who don't have other means to get there, and I get invited to their special occasions, and I feel part of the community here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrific. Well, Andrew, for the people that are watching, how would they find an apartment that affordable if they want to spend time in Kampot? How do they do it? Who do they go to?
You can look on the Campot Notice Board Facebook book group, and real estate agents will advertise there, but you will pay slightly more, but still it'll be cheap for you. But I would advise if someone really wants to do it the best prices they can get your own transport here and drive around and look for for lease signs and approach the landlord directly. And that way you're cutting out the real estate agent.
Yeah.
Because the ones on Facebook notice boards generally, because the real estate agent's got to make a living doing it. So
Mhm.
the prices are going to be just a little bit high, but still very, very affordable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd recommend you just go around on you. Don't even go with a tuk-tuk driver because he's going to also act like a real estate agent and get the commission whether you're aware of it or not. And
Sure.
that'll
Yeah.
be added. One warning I would like to give to people in general, Cambodians don't pay a deposit, right? They might ask a Westerner for a deposit because they've learned that this is a thing that can happen. but if you pay a deposit in general, it will become a gift to your landlord.
Gotcha.
I've got mine back in the past through polite, patient perseverance, but most people, when they pay a deposit, if they're cluey, they realise you're not going to get it back at the end.
Okay. That's great
But you can,
information.
if you approach a real estate agent, a homeowner directly, they're unlikely to insist on a deposit from you because they will not insist on a deposit from a Cambodian.
Yeah.
They might try, but you can say, I'd prefer not to. And if you're uncomfortable losing that money, then don't go with someone who's asking for a deposit, I'd advise.
Right. Now, where you live, are you close to everything? I mean, are you in walking distance to like cafes, restaurants, little pubs? So you are.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. A 10-minute walk to everything except the main market, which I've got a motorbike. I ride that if I'm going to the main market, and that's maybe 4 minutes on the motorbike.
Okay.
If I if I wasn't on my motorbike and I was a lot because this town is flat except the hills around it, a lot of canny expats get a bicycle because it also keeps you in shape. And
Sure.
because it's a flat topography, you're not going up and down hills and fighting that.
Hmm.
If you use one of the ride hail apps, most rides around town are $1 or $1.25.
Okay. And that's what app, who is that? Is that like Uber?
Grab. I don't think there's Uber here.
Okay, so it's Grab. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay. Do any of these apartments that you rent include utilities or are utilities separate?
Some places will offer Wi-Fi,
Okay.
and some of the resorts will offer electricity if you don't use your aircon.
Okay.
But generally, and that's something I really advise people to check out when you're looking at a room. Ask how much the electricity prices are, because some landlords will add their own fee or tariff onto the standard rate.
Hmm.
And take a photo of your meter each month. Not all, most landlords won't do this to you, but sometimes people will take advantage and double they'll double the tariff that they're actually paying.
I see. Okay.
You know what I mean? They'll just write you out a bill, and
Hmm.
yeah.
Can you give the
But
viewer?
I pay generally between $30 and $60 a month for my electricity. I work on my laptop all day, so that accounts for that. I have the aircon at night time. Yeah, and I think it's standard. Most Westerners here would end up with a bill of between 30 and 50, unless you're going silly with the hot water. That's one way that it'll really, because it's like boiling a kettle with a hot water element in it. They don't have, they have the small little heaters on the side wall of the bathrooms if there's
Yeah.
hot water.
Okay.
Give you the temperature who needs hot water.
So about 30 to 60 for electricity. Do you have to pay for water there?
Yeah, but it's like maybe $2, $3 a month. It's
Okay.
negligible.
Yeah.
And when
Okay.
it comes to gas, I have a I have a gas cooker, and it's $12 to refill that, and that might last me 2 or 3 months.
Okay. Gotcha. All right. And then the Wi-Fi, how much is that per month there?
I pay $15 for an unlimited plan.
Okay.
It's pretty good. You do get the occasional outage, but what I do is just have money on my phone, and if I'm working and the internet's gone out, I'll hotspot my phone.
Gotcha. And how much is a cell plan over there?
$6 a month, and you get heaps and heaps more data than I could ever use.
Yeah. Okay.
Very, very few people here call using their normal phone. Everyone will use WhatsApp or Telegram or
Yes.
Messenger to call it.
Right. Okay. All right. And the next item on the list is groceries. People got to eat. How much do you think, Andrew, you got to pay per month for groceries over there?
It depends on your taste. If you're into a lot of imported things, you'll pay more, of course. But I still, for example, I buy milk from sometimes from Australia, sometimes from Slovenia. It's cheaper than what I'd pay in Australia per litre,
Hmm.
which astounds me. If you're into buying imported steaks, there again, you're going to be paying foreign prices. But in general, there's a lot of competition for the supermarkets here in Kampot. We've got one, two, at least four large-sized supermarkets, and they're competing with each other. So I'd say the prices are pretty good.
Hmm.
Plus, what I was talking about before, we've got a lot of people here doing their own thing, and a lot of the supermarkets will stock products made locally by expats, like jam, sausages, bacon, ham. There are expats making all those things here in town, so
Okay.
they're reasonable prices. They're more than what a Cambodian would generally pay for food. But if you want those foreign treats, they're not coming from a long way away, so they're a fraction of the price you'd pay in your home.
Yeah. What do you think you have to budget per month?
Get by on little as 500. You
500
can
a month?
live you can
That's
live decent on 1,000. Anything above 1,000, and you can live really well.
that's more than I pay here in the US, 500 a month.
Oh, I mean in total. Sorry, in total living, you can live totally here for as little as 500 a month, including rent and utilities and everything.
So you can live in Kampot for $500 a month,
Oh yeah,
all in
yeah, oh yeah. Well, you can get a room for as little as $40.
a
And
month.
generally in those type of places, yeah. And in those places, you might be paying $8 electricity. And if you're eating reasonably priced food, $2 a meal. A good restaurant meal here for as little as $3, but then you can go to a haute cuisine place and pay $30 if you want.
Yeah. Okay.
We've got Starbucks in town, 7-Eleven, you
Uh-oh.
name it. It's yeah.
Here it comes. Here it comes. So then, okay, getting back to groceries. So in a month's period of time, what do people need to budget just to buy groceries over there?
I'd say as little as 150 up to about 500, depending on what you like to eat.
Okay. And that's for one individual. So
Yeah.
minimum, you're going to spend $150 a month.
If you go out and buy all your own ingredients, local vegetables, local meat, there's a, for instance, there's a market that opens in the morning at day, a little bit before daybreak, about 5 o'clock, where the fishermen pull up on the riverbank and their wives sell the seafood there and then. And it's all over by 7 o'clock. And if you get down there, you're going to get prawns, crabs, lobsters, fish, shellfish, squid, octopus, you name it, for just prices that, if you cook yourself, you, are amazing. Yeah.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's great info. One of the things I hear a lot is that because eating out, the food is so good and it's so affordable that a lot of people don't grocery shop. They just eat out all the
That's
time because
true.
it's so cheap. So what can you get a meal for in Kampot? And if somebody were to eat out a couple times a week or two, three times a week, what do you think they'd need to budget?
You're generally most decent meals between $3 and $5 US.
Okay.
You
Three.
can pay more and you can pay less, but there are lots of cheap international eateries, I'd call them, that offer the chicken schnitzel, fish and chips, spaghetti bolognese,
Hmm.
tom yum. Everyone knows tom yum, I think, and a few local dishes. Very very cheap to get. You can eat very cheap in the restaurants here. The only thing, some expats end up with diabetes because Cambodians habitually cook with sugar. So
Okay.
just make sure, if you're worried about sugar when you place your order, just say without sugar, please.
Oh,
Because
wow.
they tend to put sugar where we'd put salt and vice versa.
Interesting.
Cambodians will put salt and pepper on mango.
Interesting. That is interesting. Okay. So the food may not be as healthy as it looks because they're sugaring it up.
And oil as well. You just have to ask for it to be not so much oil or well trained.
Hmm. Okay.
If you eat in a Cambodian home, you'll find it challenging for those two reasons. The main seasoning ingredients at home in a Khmer home are sugar and oil. Too much oil for my taste.
All right. And we talked about transportation. You can get around at about a buck 25 for and the ride share is called Grab there. I'm sure they have public buses as well. Do you know what they charge to jump on a bus?
Not in Kampot itself, because we're not big enough,
Okay.
and the Grab apps and tuk-tuk drivers are so cheap that there's just no point in it.
Okay.
But you can get to Phnom Penh, the capital, for about $6, I think, on the bus, and about the same on the train.
Okay.
If you want to hire a private car, it's about $50 for someone to drive you exclusively on your own to Phnom Penh, down to about 40 if you want to really haggle it.
Yeah. And how far
But
away
with
are you?
Kampot so small, you don't really need a great deal. The only thing I'd say, I used to ride motorbikes in Australia. I grew up riding them, but I still didn't ride one here for the first 2 years until I'd figured out the customs on the road here are very, very different. So
Sure.
you just watch and observe before you jump on your motorbike and head off into the distance because, for instance, the biggest vehicle always has right of way.
Yeah. That's that's funny. That's very good info. It'll keep you
But I
alive.
will say, too, Cambodians, there's no road rage. People are very patient with each other on the road, and you'll never hear honking of horns.
Well, that's an interesting point that you make. Why do you think like the US and Canada, places like the UK, even in Australia, there is road rage. And then you live in a place like Cambodia and you never observe it, you never witness it. What's the difference, in your opinion?
I think the best explanation I can come down to is that thing we talked about before about Cambodians looking on anger as a childish thing.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot to make a Cambodian angry. So they just generally can't. People, 40 kilometres an hour is the general speed for me. You'll get the occasional young boy who's on his motorbike and flies past you, but that's pretty rare. Most people just drive nice and they're not in a hurry.
Hmm.
Time is different here too. People aren't so fixated on time.
Hmm.
Whereas in the West, we're crushed. Every minute's precious. Got to get home. Got to take the kids to school. Got to do this, do that. Here, everything's a lot more relaxed, and things happen when they happen. And as a Westerner, you have to accept that too. If
Yeah.
someone says they'll agree to meet you at a certain time and they're not there, well, that's kind of normal. Just be patient.
Great info. All right. Andrew, what do people do around there for fun? What do you do in Kampot for fun? How far away are you from the beach? How far are you away from the capital, Phnom Penh? And what do you do there? What do people do there for activities and fun?
For me personally, and then I'll expand on the other options. My main form of socialising is I go to quiz nights, and there's many on here at various guest houses, resorts, and bars and restaurants put them on. And I find that I meet people of a similar ilk at the quiz nights, so I enjoy that. And after it, you sit around, talk, and get to know each other. People, you form teams, and so you're meeting random people you've never met before, and that's how I've met some of my best friends. Other than that, I like to go over. There's a temple on Fish Island which can be reached by going over two bridges, and it's on the riverbank looking at Mount Bokor, which rises up just over 1,000 metres, and sunset down there just when I want to get away. That's beautiful. I like to ride my motorbike just around and go down random streets or lanes I've never been to before.
Hmm.
Visit some friends who live here in their homes to get out of my home. I also like, if I've got a visitor, I'll take them off to the caves because some of the Shiva temples date back to 600 AD, and that's real history.
Hmm.
And if I want to get away to swim, I'm a big one for swim. I've got two options here. I can go about half an hour. See, time's not big here. It might be as little as 20 minutes off to Kep. Kep's got a proper ocean beach, and to the west of Kep, near the Vietnamese border, about another 15 minutes on, they've opened up a new beach there that is Very beautiful. I've only been there twice so far, but it's many kilometers long. If you want to swim here in town, there are numerous resorts that offer, if you have a meal, you get to swim for free. So that's always handy, including the old cinema. I'll give a yell out to them because they're operating in a colonial era cinema that they've remodeled with an oasis inside and a swimming pool, and it's just beautiful. And it's a couple of minutes walk from my home. I do there occasionally, but otherwise I go up the river, and there are places up the river from town before you hit the things flow from the town into the river and downstream. So I
Mhm.
don't swim. There's a beach. There's several beaches in town, but I don't swim in those because it's just not worth the risk. But if
Yeah.
you go upriver, it's coming straight out of the mountain, golden sand, palm tree places, backpackers and Khmer family places up there. And that's where you can do things like kayaking, jet boating, all those type of water activities are available. We've got kite surfing in town. There's a caving group. There's a mountaineering group. Hash House Harriers.
Hmm.
There are people who get together and ride their motorbikes together, ride their bicycles together, four-wheel drive groups, dune buggy groups. There are a lot of retired musicians here, so you'll find free live music most nights of the week. You can go out and drink a beer for 50 cents and listen to some musicians playing their thing.
Hmm. That's crazy.
Um,
Just like go out and have a beer for 50 cents still, someplace in the world, and be entertained.
and listen to a band for free with no cover charge.
Yeah, it's just impressive. It's wild to hear that kind of stuff. Um, all right, that's great. So there's a lot of things to do, it sounds like. And it sounds like there's a lot of things to do for free there.
Yeah, oh yeah. And there's a backgammon club, a chess club. They're they're not all going to come to me, but if you there's more than enough things to do here with your time if you want. Don't get trapped into the sitting around drinking beer all day thing. You've got plenty of options here,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you'll find like-minded people. Most of the expats in Kampot are here to have a good time, and so they're not drama freaks, and you'll make friends easy enough.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
the local community people, this is a town where people, their families generally are, so they've got a reputation. So there's very little. The tuk-tuk drivers, for instance, won't chase you down the street or even yell out to you here. It's just so relaxed, the whole attitude. Whereas if you go to Siem Reap or Phnom Penh, the tuk-tuk drivers, they're going to be after you. They're not going to hassle you, but they're just going to follow you. Are you sure you don't want to lift? Are you sure you don't want to lift? And no, no, no thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. That leads me to just interested connecting with the locals. Is the language barrier an issue?
That amazed me when I first turned up here. Being an ex-French colony, I did not expect English to be around. French basic, I did French at school and I thought it might come in handy here, but I've met at most a handful of very old French speakers. French is pretty well dead here, except for amongst the Belgian and French expats, which we do have
Mhm.
a lot of. English, I think, really took off because of the UN period here.
Okay.
English is a working language of government. So if you need to fill out a bank form or an import form or anything like that, you can get it in English or Khmer. You do not have to learn Khmer, but I would advise anyone who's going to make it their home, it'll go a long way if you can talk Khmer. Like
Yeah.
anywhere in the world, people are really going to appreciate it if you just make an effort to slowly pick up a few words. And it's not a tonal language, unlike Vietnamese and Thai or Chinese. So to speak, it's not as hard as Thai or Khmer to learn.
Hmm.
The writing's a whole other thing. I've never tackled the writing because that's a whole other script.
Yeah.
And Cambodian doesn't have gaps between words.
Hmm.
It's all just in a stream, so you have to figure out where one word stops and the next word starts.
Yeah. Do you find that many of the locals are learning English, and especially the younger generation?
I,
Are they? They are.
Yes, definitely. English number one priority, and Chinese is a second priority. But in English, even at the government schools, they learn some English.
Is English immersion big like it is in Korea, Japan, China, where they have all of these English schools and
I wouldn't say the immersion, but Khmer seem to pick up languages just so quickly.
hmm
Like I've got a neighbour, and he speaks better English than he does Khmer. He's never left Cambodia, but his preferred language is English
yeah,
because he works with tourists, so he's using English more than Khmer, and he said
yeah,
he started to dream in English.
yeah,
Like, even with Khmer, you can get by with a few words and a few hand gestures in the shopping environment. You'll just get cheaper prices and bigger smiles if you say thank you in Khmer and things like
sure,
that, or if
yeah,
you can Kamai. Sorry, I always mispronounce that. That's my
yeah,
Australian accent coming in.
yeah. Yeah, that's great information. It's very true. It's very true. The more that you make an effort, especially in the culture that you're living within, people truly appreciate that, and it can go a long way. Well, the last thing we have, Andrew, is healthcare. What do people do for healthcare in Cambodia? What do you do for healthcare? Is there a monthly payment or some insurance plan that you're on? Do you pay out of pocket? What can you share?
Personally, I don't have anything. I don't know anyone who even has insurance. I know it's being offered. It's kind of a new idea in Cambodia, health insurance. It is available. We do have, as I said, that good hospital, private hospital here in Kampot. If I was ever in trouble, I'd go there first, or if it was really serious and the time delay wasn't going to be a factor, Thailand. But I'd advise people to check out a specialty health care insurance provider if they think that's going to be an issue for them. I've been lucky, touch on wood. I haven't, I've had a few health problems, but to deal with them over the years, it's just, I would have spent more if I had insurance, to be frank. But I've been here since I was 30, so it's a little bit different. If you've got a chronic condition, yeah, sure, definitely consider getting health insurance, maybe even before you come, compare it to what you've got at home and see if you can transfer it to here.
Okay.
Because I remember when the insurance started to come in, I was sitting in a restaurant in Phnom Penh and some people ran in and said they just had a car accident. Can we use the phone to call our insurance company? And the insurance company's advice was to run away.
Wow.
Yeah, but I think the insurance industry developed. That was 20 odd years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've been there almost 30 years and you were there. How old were you when you first arrived there?
30.
30. So you're like what,
Yeah.
55?
Yeah, I'll be 55 later this year. That's why I qualify for the retirement visa now.
So
Because
prior to
in
that,
this
you were getting a
country,
business visa?
yeah,
All right. So now you qualify for the really simple, easy visa that lets you stay there for a year, but you got to pay what, 280 or close to, I think it's around 280 bucks per year.
yeah,
So,
I do it through an agent. She charges me 300. I could do it myself, but that extra $20, and I've dealt with her for 9 years, and it's so simple, if you know
it's
what I
so
mean. Rather
easy.
than me
Yeah.
going to a government office and waiting a day and then having to come back the next day because I haven't crossed an I or dotted a T, or the
Mhm.
other way around.
Okay, so really, it sounds to me like a lot of people you know, especially yourself, aren't on any kind of health insurance. Do they have a public health care system? So, for example, if you get really sick, something happens and you got to spend time in a hospital, will you come out of that situation having to pay, ten, $20,000?
In Cambodia, there is a series of hospitals called Cantabofa established by a Swiss man who, if you're a minor, he their hospitals, they only have world-class trained doctors, no corruption in the hospitals. They will reimburse a family's travel fee to get to the hospital, and just as importantly, they'll provide food to the family, and they only allow one family member to stay there at a time.
Hmm.
The other option for a Cambodian is the national hospitals. I'm about 50 metres away from the local one here. That provides a reasonable level of care for Cambodians, but you will need family support while you're there to bring you food. And Cambodians will generally camp down beside the bed of the sick family member in the hospital. It's very different.
Mm-hmm.
If you have something serious and you end up in a private clinic, just be wary of which clinic you go to, because some of them, their main aim is to extract money out of you without necessarily treating you. So really do your homework before you go to any type of hospital, I'd say.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. Good to know.
I've got some horror stories from private hospitals where people haven't done their homework and they've ended up in a bad situation.
Yeah.
But I've also had wonderful stories of friends who've had serious medical conditions and had them treated very well for very reasonable prices. The
Hmm.
same with dental. We've got a great dentist here in town who everyone raves about. I think she trained in France, but I'm not sure on that. But there's a bit of a waiting list unless you've got an emergency to get into her, but a fraction of what you'd pay in Australia or America.
Yeah. Do you know anybody that's ever suffered a stroke or a heart attack and or even cancer and had to get ongoing treatment within a hospital and came out of it having to pay a large chunk of money? Does that occur?
Most people I know who've got something really serious head home because
Okay.
from Europe or Australia or Canada, you're going to get free treatment. So if it's really, really serious and you can get on a plane,
Yeah.
yeah, go home.
Okay.
I don't. I've never had a personal close. I know of people, but I've never had a personal close friend who's found themselves in a situation where they've been stuck with a large bill that they can't pay at the end.
All right. Great information. Well, Andrew, we covered everything. Is there anything else you can think of that could be helpful to the viewers watching, considering moving to Cambodia?
I just can't say how wonderful Cambodia is and how it gave me a second lease on life and changed how I think. I have learnt and grown so much living in another culture. Cambodia is the opposite of many ways in where I come from. It's a very friendly place. It is hierarchical. It's got a long history. The people are very friendly and it takes a lot to make them angry. You're going to encounter very little violence here unless you really push someone to the extreme. You've got to learn to be patient. You've got to learn to understand that Cambodians will say yes to nearly anything. And it can be hard to get a Cambodian to talk about negative things. That's Cambodians are encouraged to talk about positive things. So if someone agrees to do something for you or with you, you've just got to be a little bit careful about how serious you take that yes to be. Or if you ask if something's possible and they say yes, a maybe is a definite no here. Okay,
Mhm.
put it that way. A yes is a maybe. Yeah, you
Yeah.
just the culture. It's a wonderful culture, but you've just got to adjust to it and not try to change it either. You've got to work with it if you're going to be here. And you can make local friends and you can make foreign friends, and you won't be discriminated against here. You will be treated a bit differently, but it's generally positive, except for you might be expected to pay a little bit more now and then. But no, there's no anti-Western resentment here. Cambodians don't have any resentment for the wars that went on here. They want to leave that behind. And that is a big factor in Cambodians' history, the Khmer Rouge period, year zero. People celebrate being free here. But they couldn't even eat with their family or choose where to live in that time. So now people tolerate each other doing things to a great degree.
Mhm.
Like your neighbour might spark up the karaoke in the middle of the day and play it full bore, but it'll be off by 9 o'clock at night time.
Mhm.
I'm grateful that I've had this opportunity and I just stumbled into Cambodia and found a place that really suits me. I couldn't think of anywhere else I'd rather live. I'm not anti-Australian. I still love and am proud where I come from, but living here is for me. And
Wow.
yeah, I'd encourage anyone. The islands offshore, they're what Thailand used to be 30 years ago. Angkor Wat is the biggest religious ruins in the world. It stretches over an amazing area. Phnom Penh has a vibrant city life with food and entertainment from all over the world. And Kampot's our little provincial hideaway that used to be secret, but now the word's getting out.
Wow. Well, Andrew, it has been a pleasure to meet you and to gain all this information about Kampot. I appreciate you taking the time to share all this info.
Thanks for having me on. And I'd just like to say, if anyone does want any advice or assistance or just any questions about possibly coming to Cambodia, I think my email is going to be in the link below. I'd be
Yep.
more than happy to answer any questions or help anyone out. I'm proud of Cambodia. It's not perfect, and if you need any help, I'll give you honest, fair income assistance and advice.
That's great. Well, Andrew Ma, thank you again so much for doing this, and you have a great rest of your evening.
Akun Saran, thank you very much for having me on.